And so did you know that it was Earth Day on Monday, the 22nd of April? And it's one thing to acknowledge a day such as these, but another to acknowledge those who have dedicated their life to encouraging us to live with a more environmentally conscious outlook. And in fact, Dr. Rebecca Gladstone-Gallagher is one of those people who not only has devoted her life to this, but has been named an environmental champion. So, Dr. Gladstone-Gallagher, welcome to the show this morning.
Hi, kia ora, nice to be here.
Nice to be having you on the show, and an environmental champion. So do you get like a hat, or is there a cape involved? Like, is there a ceremony? What happens with that?
There is indeed an award ceremony. I'll be travelling to Switzerland in June to receive the award, but yeah, it is indeed a great honour.
Well, I mean, congratulations, and always great to see New Zealanders doing well in the international scene. Why don't we take a little bit of a step back here on this one and talk about the ways in which you and your colleagues have been looking at how we can live within the planet's ecological boundaries. How does one become an environmental champion?
Well, we were doing some research that was addressing this kind of issue, that we have ecosystems that are collapsing all over the place. Specifically, the issue that gives context to my research is coastal ecosystems and how they are under huge threat. And so we were wanting to look at what are the kinds of issues that would be contributing to these environmental problems, and what are our actions doing that could kind of exacerbate what's happening in the coast. So we took a look at our current environmental management approaches and looked at what are the consequences of those.
And I think that's super helpful as well, because this is anecdotally here, so you can tell me if this lines up with your experience. I feel like New Zealanders in general are keen to do what they can to preserve the environment in principle, but we often struggle to know what we can do. What's the most effective thing? And I guess in many cases, we look to people like you to say, these are the most effective ways that you can preserve our environment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we need research like this to give the evidence to actually kind of promote change, or the evidence that's required to actually make the changes. And our research was looking at, we currently manage our coastal marine environments separately to the land and separately to lakes and rivers, but actually there's these huge connections between them that we kind of ignore in our current policy, legislation, approaches, and this has consequences, and that's what the research was looking at, providing evidence for the solutions to this kind of thing.
Well, tell me more about those connections then, because that's fascinating to hear. What did you discover has been missed, and again, could provide some huge opportunities for us to make a difference?
Yeah, well, so ecosystems are highly connected. So, for example, when we do things on the land, it has consequences for what happens in the receiving waters, rivers, coastal ecosystems. So we can think of things like, if we do something on land that promotes the movement of pollution into the waters, this has consequences. And what we found is that managing these ecosystems in socially constructed bubbles, and by that I mean, we have different people that manage actions on land and different people that manage actions in the ocean. By managing in these socially constructed bubbles, it has consequences where we have really slow responses to change in the ocean.
Yeah.
And these slow responses have consequences in the sense that we have ecological shifts that occur that are very difficult to return from once they've occurred.
I suppose it's very easy also to silo your response, to say, okay, I've fixed this one thing in this bubble. Cool, I'm doing great in the rivers now. Rivers are fantastic, everyone. Let's move along. And yet, as you say, downstream, literally, we might find that there has been an effect to the things that we did, maybe with the best of intentions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was this siloed approach that we wanted to break down. So and I think the reason that this research was recognised by this international body is that we came together. We had ecologists from, land, freshwater, sea. We had social scientists, economists, Indigenous researchers, and we all came together to try and break down these silos in kind of a research framework. Because if we researchers can't come together and work together to solve these issues, then we can't expect society to follow us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. How did you facilitate that? Because that's fascinating. I suppose there can be a sense of, we all have our sense of expertise and certainty around things. And look, we're all dealing with people and with egos and that kind of stuff as well. That's true across the board. So what was that meeting like? How did you facilitate that kind of sharing of ideas and open that up?
Yeah, well, it kind of arose out of the we had a series of research programs that were across New Zealand called the National Science Challenges, and these were all focused at addressing environmental issues such as these kind of ecological collapses, but they were siloed into things like land, freshwater, and sea. And so we saw these kind of arguably reflect our social structures as well. And so we spoke with researchers across the challenges and came together to kind of talk about what are the commonalities in our research streams, and what are the overlaps, and what are the disconnects, because importantly the disconnects are the things that we need to solve. And yeah, I think that it shows that with kind of trust and talking, we can actually achieve quite good things.
There's a lesson for all of us in that one, isn't there? So
Yes.
why don't we talk about then what some of those specific findings have been then? And again, you'll have people who are, say, keen outdoors people in New Zealand as well, looking to do their bit, or maybe they are working in agriculture or whatever it might be. What were some of the things that you guys discovered could have the most impact on preserving our ecological state in New Zealand?
I guess we're calling for a more connected approach to these issues, where we need legislative and policy change that actively considers connections across ecosystem, explicitly considers these connections across ecosystems, so that everyone who's working within our society has guidance for how we can actually make the situation better. And arguably, if we don't facilitate this more connected thinking, then business as usual will continue, and business as usual is continued decline of our ecosystems. You know, these state of the environment reports come out every year, and it's always a negative view, in the sense that we are continuously degrading our systems. So arguably we need such a connected approach in order to shift us away from those paths.
Yeah. And so what does success look like for you then with something like this? So you've facilitated this coming together of great minds and uncovered a way to advance this more successfully. But I mean, is there a way that you can look and say, what the decline has reversed, or what are you guys looking at now to say that, I don't know, to know that your work is having the impact that you wanted it to?
Yeah. I mean, I think that we would consider success being that our policy and our actions consider connections. So when we are making decisions on land, we are considering what might happen in the future downstream, given that these changes have huge time lags between them. And that's what makes them so complex to manage, because the effects happen later down the track. Do you know what I mean? They're not immediate. So success to us would be that we consider these connections among ecosystems explicitly when we're making decisions. And I guess that requires a behavioral shift and kind of a shift in emphasis at a governance level, but also at our local level when we're kind of making our decisions.
And coming back to the award as well, I mean, it must be enormously gratifying to be recognised in this front, although I'm sure you would be the first to say that it wasn't simply your work here, that there was a team that you're working with. So what does recognition like this enable you to do, or what does it provide in terms of maybe a boost to your work that otherwise wouldn't have been available to you?
Well, yeah, you hit on a good point there. It is definitely a team effort. This research that we won the award for was there was a lot of other people involved, not just me. I'm just the face of it. I'm just representing our whole team. It's a huge honor for me as a young researcher to be recognized like that. So for a start, but it also is extremely important that extremely exciting that our research here in New Zealand has actually got global relevance and leadership. And it suggests that we are actually leading the way in terms of finding solutions for problems that are existing all over the globe. So I think that's the main thing for me, is that it's really hugely gratifying that we can be recognised internationally.
Well, and it's been wonderful to be able to speak to you as well, and just to celebrate a great New Zealander who I know is working with a team of great New Zealanders as well. So Dr. Rebecca Gladstone-Gallagher, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.